Ever since the early 1990s, one of the biggest controversies surrounding the Bell Witch legend concerns the controversial abuse theory. The theory suggests that the Bell Witch came about as the result of John Bell abusing his youngest daughter, Elizabeth, or Betsy. So far, 3 books, 2 stage plays, and 1 motion picture have used the abuse theory to try and explain away the Bell Witch legend. People from authors to paranormal researchers to private investigators have all weighed in on the abuse theory, and now it's my turn. But before somebody can really grasp the abuse theory, they must understand how it came about and what all went into forming the theory. Back in the 1920s, 30s, and early 40s, Hungarian-born lawyer turned psychologist Dr. Nander Fodor conducted a series of experiments and investigations dealing with poltergeist cases. Poltergeist comes from the German words polter meaning noisy, geist meaning ghost, as in noisy ghost. His research found that in many poltergeist cases, a young person, typically a teen or preteen, was present during the poltergeist disturbances. Poltergeist disturbances consist of things flying across the room, raps on walls, people being hit, basically just forces of violence. You can't see a poltergeist. It possesses no intelligence. It's just a ball of energy. After Dr. Fodor's initial research, he wrote a book detailing each case and the circumstances surrounding it. And that is when he realized that a fairly common denominator was the presence of an adolescent or preteen person. But he didn't really know why. What about this person caused so many poltergeist disturbances to occur? Then later in the 1960s, Dr. William Roll from the University of North Carolina, after having read Dr. Fodor's book, decided to conduct some experiments into finding out why the teenagers and preteens tended to cause poltergeist activity more so than when other people who were not teenagers were present. And he looked at a lot of different scenarios, tested with a lot of different variables, and came up with what is known as psychokinetic energy, rather mind over matter, where energy from the brain is released in such a form and such a volume and quantity that it causes things to move. And he eventually coined the term recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis, also known as RSPK, whereby someone who is emotionally traumatized or whose hormones are charged up, or overcharged rather, releases this psychokinetic energy over and over again, recurrently, and at different times, and very sporadically. Hence it was spontaneous. And these spells where the person, also known as the poltergeist agent, releases this energy is when the poltergeist comes into play. Objects fly across the room, people get hurt, noises are heard on the walls, furniture falls over, that sort of thing happens. In November of 1968, one of America's most popular men's magazines, Playboy, ran an article on the Bell Witch. And as one might imagine, the magazine decided to take a bedroom approach to the Bell Witch legend. The article's author carefully brought in the RSPK theories and plugged in the variables of John Bell, Betsy Bell, the type of disturbances that were encountered, and was able to create an article that supported RSPK as the result of physical abuse is what created the Bell Witch legend. Well, for a little over 20 years, this theory lay forgot about. Then in the early 1990s, someone began writing a book, and they too used the same theory. The way this played out was that Betsy Bell was allegedly abused by her father, John Bell. And we must remember that back in the legend, Betsy Bell and John Bell bore the brunt of the disturbances caused by the entity known as Kate. So this theory suggests that John abused Betsy, and that Betsy's mind, which had become traumatized and created all this psychokinetic energy, created this poltergeist and caused the poltergeist, also known as the Bell Witch, to attack John Bell over and over again in revenge for the abuse that he was doing to Betsy. That this whole thing was created through Betsy's mind and the psychokinetic energy. So this brings up an interesting question. Betsy herself perhaps suffered the worst of anyone in the Bell family. If this thing were created by her mind, why would it attack her when she was the alleged victim? Well, the theory plugs in the notion that it attacked her to deal with her guilt because A, it happened, and B, she never told anybody. So part of this psychokinetic energy generated by her mind was used to actually punish herself because she felt partially to blame for what was happening, or what was allegedly happening. So that's how the abuse theory, everything plugs into the abuse theory, and how people are using it to find a quick and convenient closure to the Bell Witch legend. However, there are a couple of problems associated with that. First and foremost, if you look at the characteristics exhibited by the Bell Witch entity over the 4 years that it terrorized the Tennessee family, you see a few instances of poltergeist activity early on, but the thing eventually learns to speak, which a poltergeist cannot do. It possessed intelligence, which a poltergeist does not possess, and it was able to even mimic people's voices. So what we have here is a case of something that may have begun as a poltergeist, but it evolved into a whole lot more. So even if this RSPK theory and the assumption of abuse were true, we can't use it to argue the case of the Bell Witch, because the Bell Witch was only about 25% poltergeist. Now, as for some of the other fallacies associated with this abuse theory, we have no way to prove that Betsy Bell suffered any abuse from anyone other than the Bell Witch entity. Okay, so we can't prove that it happened, but can you prove that it didn't happen? Nobody even needs to go down that path, because in America we're considered innocent until proven guilty beyond a shadow of any and all reasonable doubt. Hence, there's no reason or no need to prove John Bell's innocence. And we have a situation where quite a few people have suggested or actually accused him of abusing Elizabeth, but have yet to come forward with any proof to back up their accusations. With the abuse theory, we have yet another of the many theories out there that I like to refer to as Swiss cheese theories, because they're full of holes. They're not even theories, they're speculation. So that's my take on the abuse theory. We need some proof, otherwise we need to stop the accusing.